Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley, and welcome back to the Big 12 Insiders. Appreciate everybody being in here. It was a good weekend of college basketball within the Big 12. It was a good weekend in college basketball in general, but specifically in the Big 12. A lot of good games, some movers and shakers, somebody kind of putting their stamp on whether they're the best team in the Big 12 or not. We're going to break all of that down for you guys, man, and appreciate everybody being in here as always. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, continue to hit the notification bell, and always getting those comments. Let me know exactly what you like, dislike about the show, and also what you guys may want to see next. So we appreciate it. Let's get into this. First things first, let's break down tonight's games. Look, there's a make or break game tonight, in my opinion. Kansas State goes to Utah. Kansas State has to win the game. If they want to make the NCAA tournament, they have to win this game. I think they've got the error of maybe losing one regular season game, but this isn't one of them. So if Kansas State doesn't win tonight, I'm telling you right now, Kansas State fans, cancel your plans for NCAA tournament unless you win the Big 12 tournament, because it will not happen. You can't lose this game to Utah and think that you're going to the NCAA tournament without getting an automatic bid. Just not going to happen. Not this year. So must-win game tonight for Kansas State. Arizona goes to Baylor. Here's what I would say. Number one, Arizona needs the game to get their confidence back. Not necessarily that they're just lacking all this confidence or anything, but to get back maybe going in the right direction. They lost a couple games in a row, and they need to start feeling better about themselves. Let's just put it that way. They need to start feeling better about themselves. Arizona's a good basketball team. That was a tough one on Saturday. We'll go through that and break it down. But, yeah, they need this game. But Baylor also needs the game. And here's the reason why. A lot of people, look, Baylor's going to make the tournament. Unless they just have a collapse down the end of the season, Baylor's going to make the tournament. But Baylor's been inconsistent. Here's an opportunity to show some consistency. The game's at home, so you have that going for you. But I would say if you want people to take you seriously, you need to beat this very good Arizona team at home. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying your season's down the tubes if you don't win. I'm not saying any of those things. But what I am saying is you want to put a little bit more legitimacy to your inconsistent season so far. This is a basketball game that you need to win. That's what I'm telling you. It's not anything of life or death or season make or break. All I'm saying is you want to be taken seriously, you go beat this Arizona team. And again, a very good Arizona team at home. You do that, then people may start talking about you. Number one, it may lift the confidence and lift the spirits of your team, but it just gives a little bit more legitimacy to what you've got going on. Because again, heading into the tournament, you got to start hitting on all cylinders. Beating Arizona would be one of those things. Same thing with Arizona. Lost a couple in a row, a tough one at home on Saturday. But I think you win this game at Baylor, and it's okay. You know what? Baylor's a good team. Although they've been inconsistent, they're still very talented, very well coached. So I'm interested in that basketball game. Be interesting to see who comes out with it. So let's break this thing down as far as what we saw on Saturday, people. First thing, Iowa State. Looks like they're getting back on track. Went over my beloved Cincinnati Bearcats. Damn it. Just when I thought Cincinnati was on track, heading in the right direction, they lose one. Now, let's all kidding aside. I mean, the game wasn't a blowout. Cincinnati was right there. They were fighting their ass off. But let's just be honest. Iowa State's just better than Cincinnati. They're just a better basketball team than them. But I will say this. The Bearcats are playing better than what they were 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Let's call it 3 weeks ago. They're definitely playing better than what they were, which is a step in the right direction. Now, this was a resume-building win that I think they needed because, again, you start looking and matching their wins. If they can get to 500 in the conference, that's a good thing. I'm not sure they can. This would have been a step in that right direction. Having said all of that, Iowa State's really, really good. Look, Curtis Jones. It's not often that a guy he starts off on the bench, injuries happen, he gets moved into the starting lineup, plays okay. I think a lot of Iowa State fans would say, yeah, he's underachieving the starting lineup. He's better off the bench. He goes back to the bench, and when the starter comes back, and he's back to playing the way that he was before. Look, some guys are just better coming off the bench. They're better watching the action to start a basketball game. It just, sometimes that's how they are wired, man. Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. But Curtis Jones, again, he had 22 points. Now he was 12 of 12 from the line. Yeah, I think it's incredible what he does coming off the bench. You just don't see that very often in college, in any basketball per se, but especially in college basketball, you don't see that very often. But we'll see. Cincinnati had won 3 straight. They got a tough one at West Virginia. Both teams need that game. It's on Tuesday. I believe it's Tuesday. Yeah, both teams need that game, so we'll see exactly what happens from here on out with the Bearcats. Like I said, their tournament, I would say, and it's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. I apologize. But I would say their tournament hopes are going to rest on that basketball game. They're slim as is, but if they're going to make a run to try to get to the tournament, I don't know that they can lose another game, and they definitely have to beat West Virginia. West Virginia, we'll go over them, but their tournament success and their tournament lives are at stake as well, because with every loss, and they keep mounting, it's ugly. But we'll get to them here in a minute. Texas Tech goes to Oklahoma State, blows them out. I kind of thought that would happen. I mentioned that on Friday. Tech furious over the way that they played against Arizona State in a game that they you saw it. They weren't defending. There's no reason. I know the game went into double overtime, but you can't tell me that Arizona State should be scoring over 100 points. I think it was like 106 points against Tech. I'm sure they're just furious at the defensive effort that they put forth in that game. Underestimated them, didn't take them seriously. The game was at home. Coming off of that, they go to Stillwater and just annihilate Oklahoma State. Look, Oklahoma State's a team that I said they would fight. And Tech, just said, no, we're going to take this fight right out of you early. The game was 19 points at halftime, and they cruised from there. It was 93-55 finish, just a destruction. But that's what you're supposed to do. When you are that good, and I've said all year how good Tech was, when you're that good and you're that better than your opponent, then go do it. And again, not only are they better than Oklahoma State, they were also pissed off. And when you're playing pissed off because of how you played the previous game, you're going to come out and somebody's going to get your best shot. Oklahoma State got it. That was ugly. So good for them. They got another one as far as Tech. They go to TCU on Tuesday. I suspect a little bit of the same thing, but we'll see. Colorado gets their first win of the season. I told you guys on Friday, I thought this is where they get their first win. They're at home against Central Florida. So I don't even know. Look, I use the analogy of a sinking ship a lot. I don't even know that you could say that about UCF anymore. And Central Florida, UCF, get mad. I don't care. But either way, I don't know what you would say about it. I can't keep using that same analogy for them. The season is down the tubes. I think that's probably the best thing. They were a team 3 weeks ago solidly in the NCAA tournament. Not on the bubble. They were in. 3 weeks later, they have no shot. That's college basketball, man. That's college basketball. That's Big 12 basketball. It's ugly. It can get ugly. If you're not mentally tough enough, it can get ugly. And that's the case with UCF. They've been in some games, but you go to Colorado and you get beat. Give all the credit to the Buffaloes. I told you I love their coach, Tad Boyle. I told you I love their fight. They had never stopped fighting in any game that they had been in. They just not as talented as other teams. That's kind of been their thing. They just haven't been as talented. But I told you Friday, I thought this is where they'd get their first win, and they did. Congratulations. 76-63. Good win. Good win for Colorado. Good win for Ted. Again, you don't want to see anybody go winless, and they're not going to go winless. So good for them. And look for them to possibly, I look at the matchups, for them to win a couple more games moving forward. You know, it could very well happen for this Colorado Buffalo team because, again, they have not stopped fighting. They are playing very, very hard. Good for them. Baylor won a game in overtime over West Virginia, 74-71. This game was a great basketball game. I don't know if anybody caught it or not. Back and forth affair. Neither team led by more than 5 points, I believe. I was pretty sure. And I watched the entire basketball game. And, yeah, neither team led by more than 5 points. Nip and tuck. Goes into overtime. Another weird thing is that Baylor scored all their points in overtime from the free throw line. I know that's not going to make West Virginia fans very happy, but that happened. But I don't know, man. West Virginia, I mentioned this before. The losses keep mounting. They keep mounting. Like they're losing their grip on getting into the tournament. I mean, you don't see them now. Again, the bracketology will come out later today, but you haven't seen them lose their grip on firmly being in the tournament. They've been in. There's been no question, but they keep losing basketball games. Sooner or later, they're going to end up on the bubble. It may be now. They've got to turn this ship around. I mean, it's just that simple. For Baylor, they've been inconsistent. And like I said, maybe this gets them going in the right direction. I mentioned that they play Arizona tonight. Possibly this is where they can start finding a little bit more consistency. I like Baylor. They don't play a lot of guys. That's still a troubling thing. Playing 7 in Power 5, Power 6, whatever you want to call it, college basketball is tough. It is tough. And injuries be damned, it's still tough. You got to figure out a way. Now, there's teams around the country that have, maneuvered to be able to do that when injuries arise. But for the most part, Baylor's got their guys back. I think they just got to figure. I mean, you can't play 7 and win not in today's basketball, not with the freedom of movement and what people are allowed to do. I just don't think you can play 7 and win a title. But I would love if Baylor proved me wrong. That would be my thing. I would love if they proved me wrong. But that game was really good. It was a good basketball game. Again, if anybody didn't see it, back and forth affair, 74-71. Good win for Baylor. Moving on. TCU, I mean, look, Arizona State. This is what I get, though. This is what I get. And you guys are going to laugh at me because I've been on Arizona State's head for the better part of a month. Been on their head, don't give effort, poorly coached. Their coach, again, I'll say it every time I get an opportunity, is a whiny, sniveling guy. He did it again. I just don't understand why we can't finish these games. How about you get them over the hump, coach? How about you do that? Instead of whining to the media on why you can't finish games, how about you coach them and, hey, coach, we got you here. Can you help us get us over the hump with some coaching? But instead you want to whine and basically throw his players under the bus. I just don't want to hear it. Good win for TCU on the road, 74-70. But again, that's what I get for giving them credit, Arizona State, for what they did when they went to Tech. I gave them credit for playing hard, and this is what I get. This is my reward. Okay. But again, I don't want to take away from TCU and how hard they played because if I'm not mistaken, they dominated on the basketball, on the backboards, I should say. They win that by 12, which they did. So they were the more physical team. And if you're going to get out physical like that at home, there's not a lot of times in this conference that you're going to win a game. And that's not what happened here. They got physically whipped on the boards. But that's what happens. You get out rebounded by 12. You get a sniveling coach that throws you under the bus. Can't help you close out basketball games in the last 5 minutes. To me, that's when coaches do their best coaching. The last 5 minutes of games. Getting your guys into offensive sets, defensive sets, calling a timeout, setting up a play here. This is where coaches earn their money, and Bobby Hurley said it. I can't figure out why we can't finish games. That should tell you everything about his coaching, but I digress. Let's move on, people. BYU smacks around Kansas State 80-65. Look, here's the thing. Kansas State could not score the basketball in the first half. Whether it was bad shooting, great defense by BYU, I think it was a combination of both. Either way, Kansas State came out and couldn't score. BYU punched them in the mouth early, led by 18 at halftime, kind of cruised home. Kansas State got it to, I think, 10, maybe even 8. But BYU was never really threatened. There was no game pressure on them the rest of the way. But that's what you're supposed to do at home. That's what Richie Sanders, 17 and 14. Dylan Hall, 24 points, again, off the bench. Kansas State just never got into it. Look, when David Gasson and Coleman Hawkins combined for 12 points, Kansas State not going to win any games. They're not going to win any games like that, man. And that's the difference. Two of your best players combined for 12 points. You're on the road. You're not winning like that. BYU was simply just the better basketball team. They were just the better basketball team. Like I mentioned, Kansas State, that's a game that you probably needed to win to help your resume because BYU is in the tournament. So it was a great resume building win for them. But you can't lose again, man. You might be able to lose to Iowa State, but that's it. Like, you got to win this game tonight against Utah. As much, it's not a, well, you have an opportunity. This is a must-win game. Today is February 17th. You put yourself in this position, you have to win. No ifs, ands, or buts. Sorry, Kansas State fans. It's just the truth. You lose this game, you're not going to the tournament unless you win the Big 12 tournament, which I think is pretty far-fetched of an idea as of right now. That's just my opinion. Argue with me in the comments if you want to. Utah upsets KU. Now, come on, KU. Look, Utah, first of all, let's give all the credit to Utah. Let's give them the credit because they didn't go out and shoot 70% from three, and do anything spectacular. They just came out and played a regular basketball game, and they were just better than KU. It's not that they out-rebounded KU by 100. That didn't happen. They did force KU into 12 turnovers that they turned into 23 points, where KU only got 7 points off of Utah's turnovers. So that's a big difference right there. It's just the inconsistency from Kansas. But again, I keep saying that. This is just who they are. It's just who they are. They're not as talented as what we're used to Kansas teams being. The talent pool has been spread out. And this is what happens, man. They're just not as talented as what they thought. Still a good team, and not saying they don't have talent. It's just usually KU's best players, and you can go back through the years, are lottery picks. KU's best players are lottery picks. Where's the lottery pick? And not only that, where's the NBA guy? That's one thing that you have to start searching for. Now, I'm not saying that nobody on their team is going to play because I think Badunga will, but that's the difference. But again, I want to give all the credit to Utah because Utah, like I said, they didn't go out and just play this spectacular game to beat KU, and it was a Herculean effort by Utah. No, it wasn't. That would be disrespectful to say that that's what they had to do. That's not what happened here, man. They held home court. We got a team coming to town. Now you're not winning on our home court. That's just not happening. Now Kansas goes to BYU. I don't think it's a must-win game, but you want some legitimacy to your season, you better beat BYU. That's what I would say because it's going to be tough from here on out. It's going to be tough for KU. And then the last game of the weekend, the best game in the Big 12 this weekend, Houston holds off Arizona 62-58. Look, here's the thing. Defense, it's a cliche, but it's true. Defense travels. Houston held Arizona to 37% shooting. Now there'll be Arizona fans that tell you that, hey, we just shot the ball poorly. Okay, that's fine. But every now and then you got to give credit to the other team for basically making you shoot the ball poorly. Now, you might say they missed open shots. That's true, but sometimes your shots get rushed when another team is defending you. And then when you get an open one, okay, I'm going to rush it because I don't want anybody here, or I've been rushed, and then the time that I'm open, I go ahead and rush it. It happens, man. It happens. 58 points at home. Arizona's averaging over 80. Yeah, that's a thing. That's a real thing. Back and forth affair. Really good basketball game. I don't know how many people watched it. I would assume a lot because this was on early on Saturday afternoon. It was a real good basketball game. Very good basketball game. Represented the conference very well. But I thought Arizona had its chances. But the difference, again, Houston just knows how to win, man. They just make those plays at the end of basketball games. Now, I think it's a little disrespectful to say that Houston was the tougher basketball team because Arizona had their chances, but don't you have to say that? They made the plays at the end. And any other time you're saying, hey, man, this team was just mentally tougher than the other team and made the plays that were required to win. I think that was the case in this basketball game. That's not saying that Arizona's not a tough team. That's not saying that Arizona's not a mentally tough team. It just means that Houston was, in this particular game, was just the tougher team. They made the plays at the end of the game to win, especially doing it on the road. That just shows you how good Houston really is. Now Arizona's got to get off the deck. They've lost a couple games in a row after they had went on a big, long winning streak. They're going to Baylor. They got to win. They need to get a win to get the ship going back in the right direction. I'm not saying it's veered way off, but it's not going in the right direction, particularly at this moment. They got to get back to going up and down the court, scoring the basketball, doing the things that they do. But yeah, a real good basketball game here. But here's the thing. Houston's got a 2-game lead in this conference over Texas Tech and Arizona. But as we talked about, as far as schedules are concerned, here's what Houston still has left. Texas Tech, Iowa State, KU, Baylor. I mean, I'm just telling you. So nothing has been decided. Yes, they have a 2-game lead. Absolutely. And, with 6 games to go, that could mean something because Houston's really, really good. But playing the teams that they have to play down the stretch, if they win this conference, they will have earned it. We said that the other day. I'm going to say it again. If Houston ends up winning the Big 12, they would have earned it with this schedule that they have down the stretch. But that was a great win at Arizona on Saturday. So we appreciate everybody being in here. Remember, Thursday, come with your questions. We're going to be live at 7 p.m. Central. So make sure you come with your questions to talk about the conference and whatever. Because I think we're going to have a football topic to talk about, college football playoff. It's unbelievable. Ross Dillinger report. I'm going to break it down for you guys tomorrow. But our fears have happened. What the Big 12 and ACC had feared, it's happening, people. It's happening. So we're going to break all that down for you tomorrow and tell you about the Ross Dillinger report. But make sure you guys bring your questions for our live that were started last week on Thursdays. We're going to continue doing lives. So appreciate you guys being here. Thank you as always. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and continue to get in the comments and always hit that notification bell. We will chit chat with you guys soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.